If there's one thing From Software shouldn't add to Dark Souls, it's an easy mode, simply due to the fact that the game is designed around its universal level difficulty, and they'd have to essentially make an entirely new game just to add it in. But for some reason there's still people who can't grasp these simple concepts, and are still crying for an easy mode in games like Dark Souls, even though it basically defeats the whole point of the story as well as the point of the game. And today we'll be looking at one of those videos, which weirdly brings accessibility into the mix, because somehow they think something being difficult makes it inaccessible, which in no way, shape or form is the case. So without further delay, I'll let the video play. Why does it sound like there's at least 2 pieces of music being played at once in her intro? I really do not understand why people can't make good intros in this style. Surely it isn't that hard to do.
Hello everyone, LauraKBuzz here, and welcome to another episode of Accessibility. It's a show where I talk about video game industry, accessibility, and representation. Basically, can we make more people able to play games, and more people able to see themselves in games? That's what the show's about.
Now, when it comes to picking a difficulty mode in a video game, there's a lot of things that can go into that choice.
Not really. It all comes down to whether or not you want to be challenged.
When I'm playing Wolfenstein, for example, I put it on easy mode because it's a power fantasy. I just want to mow down Nazis and I don't want to have any trouble doing that.
Wait a minute. Didn't you say in the title that asking for an easy mode isn't asking to not be challenged? I mean, good job on contradicting yourself there. Also, it's insanely ironic they're using Wolfenstein as an example, since that's a game which mocks you for picking its easy mode. Plus, the argument can just as easily be applied to Dark Souls in the reverse. Unlike in Wolfenstein, Dark Souls isn't meant to automatically be a power fantasy. You're meant to be someone weak, defying the odds, and you earn that power fantasy.
If I'm playing a first-person shooter, I know that's the genre that I personally struggle with, so I'll probably put it on easy mode for that.
And I might play a game on easy mode just because there's another game coming out soon and I want to get through this one as quick as possible, and the easiest way to do that is with easy mode.
This argument solely relies on the premise that it is impossible to play through 2 games in the same time period, which is total bullshit.
There's a lot of reasons why someone might want to play a game on easy mode, and I want to clear up today a misconception I see a lot around games like Dark Souls, Cuphead, Super Meat Boy. There's this idea that adding an easy mode to those games would ruin them, because the whole point of the game is the player is supposed to be challenged, they're supposed to have a difficult time.
For Dark Souls in particular, it would absolutely ruin the game. To add an easy mode, it would require an overhaul of the game to the point they might as well make a new one. You'd have to potentially get rid of entire characters in the story, like Celeste for example, who helps you in boss fights, aka a way to make the game easier instead of adding an easy mode. And for the easy mode to have any resemblance of a challenge, he simply couldn't exist. You'd have to remove him, and removing him alone would hurt the story, lore and gameplay, since he introduces the player to co-op. From Software would also have to segment easy mode players away from players on the higher difficulties in PvP, which would massively segment the player base, as well as hurt the community thanks to how tutorials will be almost entirely rendered pointless. And YouTube channels who are dedicated to helping people get through the game via tutorials would essentially be obliterated now that even less people will have the need to watch their videos. Also, are you gonna lock players away from changing difficulty mid-game? Because if they find an easy mode too easy, they might want to up the difficulty, and allowing to change difficulty mid-playthrough would just make the game way too easy. If you're struggling on a boss and you're on the highest difficulty, I'll just pause and turn down the difficulty. Or you make it so that they have to restart the game, which wouldn't be a very fun experience for the majority of people. The idea that an easy mode wouldn't ruin the game is a flat out lie which is only believed in by people who haven't played Dark Souls or haven't got a clue about the game at a basic level.
A lot of these games are built around that idea, or they're built around that as structure. The narrative sometimes even builds around that, but I don't think that would be ruined if you gave players an easy mode.
Then I find it very hard to believe you've ever played Dark Souls for more than 10 minutes, because it is a literal fact that it would hurt the story as well as the gameplay, and on top of that the amount of content in the game would be significantly hurt.
So here's the basis of the argument. The Dark Souls series is often summarised best as being about carrying on when things get tough. The tone and the setting are bleak, death is expected to be frequent, and one of the things people love about the game is overcoming a boss so powerful you thought you'd never get past it.
It's a game about not giving up when things look their worst, and a number of players out there will argue that adding an easy mode would undermine this core gameplay and narrative experience. If nothing in Dark Souls kills you because the game's too easy, is that stripping the player of experiencing aspects of the narrative the creators intended? So, let's get this out of the way. I don't think that anyone who argues for Dark Souls or Super Meat Boy or Cuphead to get an easy mode is saying that that should be the only way to play the game.
And absolutely no one is saying that's what they're saying. What we are saying is that its implementation would have to change the very core of Dark Souls. Every mechanic in the game is precisely designed around this baseline difficulty that everyone experiences. To add an easy mode, you would have to fundamentally change things like the spell system, the movesets of bosses and even basic enemies have, the lore, the story, and so on, which is why people like myself are so against an easy mode in Dark Souls. By the time you change all of this, you are no longer playing Dark Souls, you're playing a completely new game.
But what I really want to focus on today is this incorrect idea that creating an optional easy mode in these kind of games is something that players are only pushing for because they don't want games to challenge them. Quite the opposite.
What? What the fuck?
An easy mode would inherently remove the challenge of the game. The whole point of an easy mode is that it's easy, aka not a challenge.
Many players, myself included, sometimes want easy difficulty modes so that they can have the same challenging experience that you're already having with Dark Souls or Cuphead.
That is impossible if you're playing an easier mode of the game. The challenge in Dark Souls is equal across all players. The idea that you can experience the same objective level of challenge, aka difficulty, on a lower difficulty is plain out ignorant to reality.
We want a challenge that knocks us over again and again, but feels just achievable enough to push through and achieve, rather than something that feels impossibly above our skill ceiling.
Then go play another game other than Dark Souls instead of asking developers to waste their time basically making a whole new game for a group of people who were never going to play Dark Souls in the first place, and would probably never buy the game even if they added an easy mode.
We want a challenge that's tough, but achievable. Many players like myself sometimes want an easy mode that isn't a total walk in the park.
Then you're not asking for an easy mode.
And before you say that I just suck at games and I just want everything watered down for me, 2 of the 3 examples I have in here, Dark Souls and Cuphead, are games I've beaten.
This is a point you'll see a lot even though it's a non-argument. Like for example, if you were to put a mouse in a maze, it would eventually finish the maze. That doesn't mean it's suddenly an expert on the maze, and it doesn't mean that the mouse doesn't want to make it easier or less challenging as well.
There are other games that I want easy modes for so that I can be challenged and have it completable, but it's not just that I suck at games, it's sometimes a specific game is tough in a specific way, and I need just a little bit easier to have the same challenging experience you're having.
Or you can do what everyone else did and solve your problem yourself instead of expecting to just walk through everything, which is ironic as fuck considering how you're claiming you don't want it to be a walk in the park.
Part of the issue here is the traditional naming nomenclature we use to discuss difficulty modes, and the way it presents what players want from a game. Easy as a difficulty mode suggests that you want an easy time, free of challenge.
They're really going to try and start changing the literal meanings of words to try and make that argument sound remotely sane. You can't make this shit up.
Would a change to calling easy mode easier mode, or something similar to that, fix this issue?
The issue you are making isn't a fucking issue. There's a reason why games with an easy mode also have modes in between highest difficulty and the lowest. But hey, I can't wait for someone to try and say that Dark Souls should have an easy mode, medium mode, and hard mode.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably because it's not an issue to begin with.
Other than that, there are games like Celeste or Sayonara Wild Hearts that don't strictly have an easy mode, but allow players to avoid optional dangerous areas, skip sections they simply can't seem to pass, or tweak specific character data to momentarily help themselves get past a section.
Comparing Dark Souls and Celeste is honestly incredibly idiotic since they handle difficulty in different ways. Celeste's difficulty primarily derives from its platforming and timing systems, whereas the difficulty of Dark Souls derives from its requirement of adaptation from the player. There isn't a set standard for every enemy in the game, because they all have unique patterns which you need to learn, and you also need to learn the counters to said patterns. And asking for From Software to allow you to tweak character data makes no sense at all, since that's the whole point of the gear you acquire, and how the game isn't simply just damage numbers. There's far more to what makes Dark Souls difficulty than just damage numbers alone.
As I said before, there's a lot of different reasons someone might play an easy mode in a game, but let's get past this notion that picking an easy mode means someone doesn't want to experience challenge.
If they wanted to be challenged but at the same time had an easier experience, then they wouldn't be playing on easy mode, they'd be playing on normal difficulty. I love how she's calling things silly notions whilst attempting to change the literal meanings of words to fuel their nonsensical argument.
Everyone's skill level is different, and skill levels differ from game to game.
And that's why Dark Souls has one baseline difficulty, so it sparks discussion amongst the community about how to beat certain areas or how to do certain things. Dark Souls perfectly understands that people have different skill levels, and it accommodates this with its tips placed throughout the game, and its hidden areas which supply you with things to help you on your journey.
Choosing to give myself a little extra time in Celeste occasionally doesn't mean I didn't challenge myself, and it didn't take away from my enjoyment of that game's narrative about overcoming difficult experiences.
Yes, because it's nothing like Dark Souls. The only reason you're comparing them is due to you finding them both hard. Nothing else is similar about them, so comparing them as if they are the same is beyond moronic. Stuff as simple as the campfires in Dark Souls would not have been the oasis they are if it weren't for the game's difficulty everywhere else. They'd simply be an over-glorified save slot and storage areas. They wouldn't have spawned such incredible artwork over the years, and the soundtracks played in those areas would be totally pointless. There's so many fundamental things to Dark Souls like this that simply couldn't exist, or would be significantly less impactful in the world's storytelling if there was an easy mode.
My playing the game that way didn't impact anyone else's experience.
Well, yeah, because as far as I'm aware, there's no PvP in Celeste, and it's a very simple game from a mechanics standpoint, unlike Dark Souls, where all the mechanics revolve around this baseline difficulty From Software has set for its players. This frankly stupid idea that any hard game can automatically be compared to Dark Souls, due to them both being hard, is well beyond the point of ignorance and idiocy.
We need to get over this notion that if someone picks an easy mode, they don't want to be challenged. A lot of people just want the same experience you're having. They want to experience Dark Souls the way you have.
Well, they can't do that unless they're playing at the same difficulty as me. If they are playing on a different difficulty, they haven't experienced what I have, and it's very weird to me that she can't comprehend this.
Someone asking to be challenged a little bit less doesn't mean they're asking not to be challenged.
That would make sense if you weren't specifically begging for an easy mode which solely exists to remove challenge from a game. Now we've finally come to the end of that insanely bad video, so with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do, aka check out my Discord server, my Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe. So I'll see you all in the next video.